right, everybody, welcome to the Loudini Hard Rock and Metal Circus. My name is Lou Lombardi, a.k.a. Loudini, and filling in for my co-host Keith Hawkins this week. Sitting next to me in the co-pilot's chair is Hair Metal Hank.
Hey,
what's up? You just came off a cool tour or something.
Yeah, man, I was on tour with Crocus for like the last 35 years, man, so I'm just coming off that, and we're going to talk about my favorite music today, hair metal. So let's do it. And why you got it all wrong out there, people.
You guys are all mixed up, man. You guys let grunge, post-grunge, hip-hop, rap, new metal, alt metal poison your mind. So we're gonna straighten you guys out today on that whole subject. But you are with the Loudini Hard Rock and Metal Circus. That website is LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com. Lots of interviews going up every week, as well as this thing, the Hard Rock and Metal Circus. Also like to send a shout out to my sponsor, Positively Pittsburgh Live magazine. That is pplmag.com. It's Pittsburgh's first internet online television, radio, online magazine. It's a great place to get a lot of great information on a wide variety of topics. Experts posting there. It's unlike any other kind of blog sort of forum you'll find, because these aren't just people that are just popping in on the internet saying whatever they want to say. These are people that are vetted experts on different topics. So, and we are there as well, and they have been very good about promoting independent music for about the past 3 years. So we really love those people a lot. That is my good friend Joanne Quinn Smith, who's the owner of that. That is Positively Pittsburgh Live magazine, pplmag.com. And so yeah, that's going to be today's topic. While we are playing some music here, I want you guys to think about what are some of your favorite acts from the so-called hair metal era, and chime in and give us some reasons why you like them, and we'll talk about you here. We had a lot of comments on both of my different Facebook pages, so we're going to go ahead and mention those people as well. But we're going to get the music started right now with a band from Ohio called Mississippi Bones. This is called Outhouse Poet. Check them out, Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. What do you think, Hair Metal Hank? Do you think it rocks?
Pretty good.
Hair Metal Hank gives it thumbs up. You really look at my card here. That's good. Crazy sort of science fiction looking doing checks. This is their latest record, 2600 AD, another astonishing hit. shot. He was sung by Van Halen. Somebody give me a doctor. Because at the end he goes, somebody give me a shot. Hair of the dog that bit me. I'm turning the mics on. All right. Mississippi Bones. That is MississippiBones.bandcamp.com off of their, what is that? 2600 AD and Other Astonishing Tales. Okay. And I really suggest you guys check them out. The band has great branding, and the tracks really rock. So check them out. That is Mississippi Bones. And so today's topic is why you're wrong about Winger and a lot of other so-called hair metal bands. So why don't, since we brought up Winger, and the reason we're sort of like, I don't mean to pick on Winger. We're actually kind of coming to their defense. A lot of the Winger hatred comes from two things, I believe, and you can chime in on this, hair metal Hank. That I guess Metallica was bad-mouthing them.
They hammered them, man. They hammered them.
At gigs. And then we all remember...
Remember Lars throwing darts at the poster during the Nothing Else Matters video, I believe? There you go.
Yeah, see, stuff like that's terrible. And they should be shaming themselves. And also, we all remember Stewart from Beavis and Butthead. And he was the dorky kid, the nerdy kid who wore what shirt? The Winger shirt. I should have worn my Winger shirt for this. I forgot. Instead, I'm wearing my Norm's Rare Guitar shirt. But
the crazy thing about that is not to interrupt.
Jump in. I want you.
The fact that you have a Winger shirt is a little frightening, but okay. Is it World Tour '87 or whatever?
Yeah.
Nice. How were they live?
They were pretty gay. No,
really?
They were good.
Because I've been on tour.
Not that there's anything wrong with being gay.
Hair Metal Hank has been touring with Rodian for Crocus for the last 50 years, so
I know that you have some thoughts on Winger, so why don't you chime in with,
I think
hair metal
that
Hank.
The reason why Winger gets a bad rap is due to the fact that the things you said about the Metallica hatred, if you're a pure metalhead, I can't listen to this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, you know damn well you were dating some chick and she was like, I love Winger, and all of a sudden, it's none of your business, Lou.
Yep. And what you're saying is right.
It's totally. I might have been one of those guys. Hair Metal Hank might have been one of those guys. I don't know. But at the same time,
50 years ago,
it's some chick that was maybe promising you a peck on the cheek, we'll say, and maybe something else. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you're listening to Headed for a Heartbreak, and then you realize, hey, I might have to, pick up a couple Winger discs or something, maybe a cassette. I don't know.
Make-out music.
It's make-out music, exactly. And if you think that Reb Beach is a bad guitar player, get your head examined. If Rod Morgenstein is a phenomenal drummer.
Amazing.
He played with the Dixie Dregs, man.
Yeah.
Hair Metal Hank.
Yeah. And
sees all, knows all.
Kip is a trained classical cellist as well as a dynamite vocalist. And hey,
and the chicks loved him.
Well, I mean, look, we talked about Chris Cornell last week. Good-looking guy, fronted a rock band. I mean, what's the difference? Kip Winger, good-looking guy, fronts rock band. I mean, that's been the beginning of. That's been in rock since the beginning. So if you're going to criticize bands because they got good-looking people in them, well, then you just better turn music. You just better stop listening to music.
Paul McCartney was always the cute Beatle. That's what they said back in the day when girls were screaming so freaking loud for the Beatles they couldn't even hear their own.
Yeah, I mean, think about. I mean, so just for that alone, you shouldn't be. Way too hard. And another thing you guys have to realize, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this after we play the next song, is you gotta put it in time. I some of the younger folks that chimed in on some of my posts this week were like, well, I always hated hair metal bands, but I like this band or that band. And the reason you hate hair metal is because you're too young to remember what rock and roll was really about. Okay? And it was always about that mixture of fun and rebelliousness, fun and pushing the envelope. It really didn't get this super serious thing happening until grunge. That's when music, like when rock music started to explore like deeper themes lyrically, and that isn't good or bad. It's just different. It's just different than what was happening. So, people were, and I read a post, and maybe I can find it for you guys real quick. Top 10 reasons why hair metal sucks, or something like that. And one of them says, somebody chimed in with, well, they're not like really metal, or they're not. They're not really shocking. They're not shocking. They're stupid. And the guy's like, well, you want shocking? Try Cannibal Corpse. Well, Cannibal Corpse was not out, didn't break in 1983 when Quiet Riot was out. Okay, so at that time, guys in tight pants singing about getting with chicks and sex and all that stuff like that was scary to parents. You know what I mean? A Motley Crue album would scare the crap out of your parents at that time. All right. We didn't, it was a different era, guys. So the younger guys out there, it was like some kind of big, it seems to be back. I'm not sure if it's there or not. Are we there? Can you guys see us? Oh boy, here we go. So let's go ahead and get another track going here. Let's, okay. What was that about? I don't know. We're having some technical difficulties because the internet jerked us. Anyways, this is a band from Pittsburgh that I really love called Gene the Werewolf. And these guys owe a lot, right, to the 80s sound.
Oh, of course.
And so-called hair metal, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that name in a little bit. But this is The Loner this is the title track off their latest album. You guys, give it a listen.
I left her the other day in frustration. And I told her
Isn't that great white?
That's an 800 song. That's technically 800 with it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is these guys that 80s rock was the offshoot in a low. He's up the glam, 70s glam, and so Ian Hunter and all the T-Rex,
the T-Rex, even going into the New York Dolls kind of sound.
Yeah.
That shit wasn't new in the 80s. It just happened to be on the show for another saturated. That's what killed it up.
See, Samantha, the combination of alcohol or bourbon and caffeine is like the best combination. I'm like ready to go now. I mean, this is really influenced by that era of music, Mike Viscara says, pour one for me. There you are, Mike.
There you go, Mike.
Cheers. Like, I would just want to crank this, like, screamingly loud. Man, it's not that. You should have told me. I would have thought when you got away.
I figured out a 50-50 chance I'll walk in and you're like, that's really cool, or you'd be like, yes, you're an idiot.
I thought it was cool. Anything to be like put on a show, dude. I'm all about that, dude. go, exactly.
But I'm sure I'll be this way till the day
Big choruses, get the whole audience singing, you know, it's like, what's not to love? Ooh. Local band. All right, that is the stupendously wonderful Gene the Werewolf.
Doing Pittsburgh proud, Gene.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
absolutely. It's good stuff. And I had the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing John, the singer. And it was a really cool guy, and they have a great story. If you go to LoudiniRockAndRollCircus.com, you can go back and listen to what we talked about and why they chose to do records and write those kind of songs. So anyways, so I think that we're kind of establishing a few ground rules here about this. Is first of all, you should never judge something from the past by today's standards, okay? You guys don't know, you have to understand that with Kurt Cobain hadn't happened. Like, none of that had happened yet, you know? People had a different attitude, a different idea about what was edgy and, you know, dangerous. Also, that music, you know, explored more traditional rock themes. Girls, partying, you know.
It was feel-good music.
Yeah.
It was, you know, that's what they knew. That's the lifestyle they lived. A lot of these bands were writing basically what was happening to them. It wasn't, you know, the dark, I'm sure it had a dark side, but they were out partying,
this song
chicks,
right here
gigs.
is a good example of a song that it does explore some of the dark things. He's talking about the dangers of drugs. I mean, the idea that these guys didn't explore any dark themes or something like that. I mean, what do you call Shout at the Devil? You know, my parents heard me listening to that. They were like, broke down the door and, you know, like, what the hell are you listening to her? You know, well, they didn't say hell because they were uber religious, but, you know, I mean, that was considered, it was a different era, guys. So, you know, what else do you want to get into about this, Keith? Or, I'm sorry, Hank.
I just went out of character. Let's explore some of the, since I'm biased towards this, some of the awesome drummers that played into the hair metal scene.
Who are your favorite?
Hair metal drummers.
Yes.
Let's talk about hair metal drummers. Of course, the king for most of you all would be Tommy Lee from Mötley Crüe. Guy is the standout of that band. Vince Neil in his day was a great vocalist, and the songs were catchy. But Tommy, if you ever seen Mötley Crüe live, Tommy was the show. The drum solos, he's freaking flipping upside down. He's playing with these huge speakers as drums. He's got, you know, all the stick twirling in the world, and he still lays down one of the best rock pockets of all time. Another guy you can talk about, we already talked about Rod Morgenstein, who's a phenomenal drummer, not just, you know, outside the rock genre. The guy can play jazz, he plays fusion, he plays whatever he wants, and that's just a world-class player. Another guy, too, that was a really good drummer, I think, then from that era was another local guy. Bobby Blotzer laid down a really mean pocket, too, from Rat. He was good, man. He was good. How can I forget Rick Allen? If you can play drums with one freaking arm. I mean, sometimes I feel like I can't play with two. This guy got one arm, you know. Tragic car accident, comes out. The band was in their heyday, man. They could have replaced him with 10 million people if they wanted to. And they hung it out, and they stuck it out for their friend. He worked it out and still kicks ass, man. Seriously.
And he was still able to beat his wife with one arm. Which is kind of crazy, right?
That is kind of crazy.
I mean, she has two arms.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but, you know, since you went there, yeah.
Well, that was part of the excess of the era. You know, people get all up on drugs and they would do bad things, like stuff like that. I'm not advocating beating your wife, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
plus, I have two arms, too, so, yeah.
So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, too, because I touched a little bit on kind of where this music sort of originated from, and it is music that kind of came out of the punk. You got to understand, punk happened 10 years or so before. All right, so these guys were sort of like leftover punkers. These guys were also influenced and brought in the hard rock of the late 70s.
For sure.
Yeah, so they were kind of like, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think like if Journey would have came out in the 80s, I think they would have probably been more of like a hair metal type act. I think you could say that, like, you know, I mean, look, and some of those acts could not make it into the 80s. You know, and that's where I'm going to go with what happened with grunge. I think there's a part of it that's just logical. A lot of bands from that era, from the 70s, just couldn't make it into the 80s. I mean, bands like million-selling bands that sold out arenas like Kansas and Yes. I mean, yeah, they Yes had that one record in the 80s, but really they did not become they were a 70s band and not an 80s band.
Yeah.
Boston, you know, I know they tried to come back with that. Third Stage or whatever, but it never did not equal what they did in the 70s. So there seems to be, I don't know if it's human psychology, but we seem to want to expect something new in a new decade. And so there is a sort of psychological turning off the old and embracing something new. And I think that is definitely part of what happened in the early 90s with the changeover from the more glam type acts to the more shoegaze type acts like Pearl Jam and bands like that.
MTV.
Well,
oversaturated our not only radio station, but MTV oversaturated us with the hair metal bands. All of a sudden, you got bands that could play from the the Wingers and the just Dawkins with George Lynch and
Warrant
and Warrant.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to talk about Janny Lane because I think he was a great singer.
There are some bands that just came. I think they went down to the street corner and picked out a few dudes that had long hair. Because there was some hair metal bands too that are just going the opposite way, that did nothing for any of the genre. Like you look at bands like Poison, man. I'm sorry. They just don't do nothing for me.
Yeah, but Poison almost is one. You know, there's an aspect of it that was sort of corporatized, and I think that you always have corporate music. We've had corporate music since we've had pop music. You know, corporations, the record labels putting together stuff that they are like, we're pretty sure we can make money on this because we'll design it so that it's homogenized enough that.
That's totally what I was getting at. Like you got bands popping out of the woodwork now. It's like you have your diehards that are like guys that could play, whether it's for the money or not. I'm sure that's Winger. Kind of some of that stuff too. You got the Tricksters and their freaking Enough's Enough, and the list goes on and on with guys that look like chicks, the Faster Pussycats of the world. Those bands, whether you like them or not, that's up to you. But those bands in that genre, they just didn't do nothing for me. And hair metal Hank's been around and seen a lot of bands, and they're shit, man. I'm just sorry.
There's a lot of acts from that era that were dark and were more in your face, like Crocus. Definitely way more.
Just got off tour with them,
right? Wasp is another band that's definitely in that era, but yet. Definitely the music was way darker. I think what you also have to understand, there was a style in the 80s. Everything in the 80s was big. It's known as the
excess,
the decade of excess. So, and the idea that rock and fashion somehow, they've always gone together. If you go back to the 60s, when the Beatles debuted on Ed Sullivan, how many teenage boys went to the barber that week and said, "Give me a Beatle cut"? Everybody wanted to wear the Beatle boots. Everybody wanted the Beatle suits. Everybody wanted to do. everybody. So fashion and rock have always gone together. Whether it's big hair and spandex, or it's a green sweater and Chucks. Whatever it is, it's still fashion, and those things have always gone together. So to kind of fault that, I think that one of the problems with so-called hair metal is the name of it. You guys have to understand that name was not. the acts of that era would not have chosen that name.
No, hell no.
That name, hair metal or hair band, is a derogatory. It was intended to be a derogatory comment name for that music. It's not meant to like really describe anything. It's just meant to put it down. So that's another problem with this music is it's got a PR problem. It's known by like kind of a bad name when really there's way more to it. And I want to say one thing in defense of Warrant. Everybody's like, Jenny Lane did not want to be the cherry pie guy. He resented that song. He hated that song. That record was supposed to be called Uncle Tom's Cabin. If you don't know the song Uncle Tom's Cabin, you should go and listen to that song because that is a great rock tune.
I know that song.
That's a great tune.
That is our heaviest jam.
It is a great jam.
I don't know. Sometimes it's just, I think a band gets...
And he was like, that was supposed to be the record. That's what they were supposed to be doing. And the record label was like, we don't really like that one. Can you do something else? So so under pressure, he went and wrote this cherry pie thing. And he says he hated it. He never liked the song, never wanted to do it. He said next thing you know, he was hosting cherry pie eating contests. And I want to talk about MTV because for all the crying about hair metal made MTV a lot of freaking money.
Oh, no doubt.
Michael Jackson, Madonna, yes, but hair metal made them a lot of money. I mean, that was like, that was huge, and because it looked awesome. It was visually really stimulating and crazy and exciting, and I don't know if MTV, because MTV started with alternative type acts. You guys gotta understand. You guys don't remember. Like I remember, a lot of the more like big hard rock bands at the time didn't have videos. And it was the like indie bands. It was the new wave bands that were experimenting with new forms of media that had made concept videos. So MTV started playing them first. All right, but it did not take off like hair metal did. When they started playing the Bon Jovis and the Warrants and the Crocuses and the Wasp and these bands that had these explosive videos.
They got the pyrotechnics, they got the hot chicks and hardly any clothing, they got the big hair, they got the good-looking
Remember
guys.
the Rock You Like a Hurricane video?
The chicks in cages. Everybody loves a chick in a cage. I mean, come on. I got one in my house right now. I'm just kidding. Anyway, but, I mean, it's amazing, like, how much MTV could at the time make or break a band's career. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, and MTV benefited a lot because those bands were made for video. They were good looking. I mean, they had everything going on for video. So all this crying and bitching about hair metal and poo-pooing it is really it's kind of being a dick. You're kind of being a dick about it because this was really...
Because I know you got your Slayer t-shirt on, and at the end of the night, you're trying to pick up a chick and you're listening to Love Bites by Def Leppard, so that is what it is.
All right, okay, we're really into this. This is really cool. I'm having a good time. I'm gonna play. We're gonna do some more talking. We're gonna do something. We're gonna play 4 bands this week instead of 3. So nice. I'm gonna play one of my favorite bands, another Pittsburgh band. And Kelly and Mike and Tyler they're great guys. The Highway 4. Great look, great vibe, great everything. And if you get a chance to see them live, I highly recommend it. But this is off their first album, Up in Arms. This is called Day by Day. And this is another one of those songs that kind of really harkens back to that era of really just great guitar music, like the music from the 80s as well. So check this out, Day by Day. There goes Hair Metal Hank, everybody. Yeah, so did I, Tim. I grew up on it. And a lot of those bands that became grunge bands, they were listening to all that music too. I mean, there's videos of Billy Corgan, covering Ozzy and stuff like that. I mean, it's a little disingenuous for them to act like that. Open another bottle. The problem, Tim, is that like a lot of metal guys say, well, that's not really metal. And I've had like, if you Google it, there's tons of arguments all over the internet about what's metal and what's not. And quite frankly, this is my thought on it.
From the Gulf. Was it called a hair?
Yeah, it's the last one.
I mean, they had a
Well, I
different
want to talk,
sound.
when we come back, I want to talk about Van Halen.
I want to talk about the king shit of hair metal bands. You don't employ Steve.
White Snake and who else? Oh.
No, lots of players. He probably wasn't a bad player.
What's his name? Adrian Vandenberg. Rick Campbell.
There he is. Bring the game.
All right, Highway 4, and that is, you can go to Highway 4 band and check out what they have going on there, playing all the time. Great band. Kelly and Mike and Tyler and the guys are just a great band. Do a lot of very cool music like that. So if you like really good rock, check them out. And I just want to kind of do a little shout out to some of the people that chimed in this week on my Facebook stuff. Mark Edwin Cole likes Rat, and Lizzie Borden. That's a band we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I don't really.
Charlie Cap, we were talking. He and I got into a discussion about the band Wasp, which we mentioned earlier. So thanks, Charlie, for chiming in for us. Jared Grease, thank you. Jeff Mazzy, J.D. Rao, Mark Anthony G, Eric James, Mike Karen, Bill Hathaway, Eric Peterson. Eric Peterson and I were talking about the band Cinderella, who is here's an example of a band that was they looked hair metal, but if you listen to their music,
If you listen to Tom Kiefer's voice was a definite anti-hair metal.
Yeah, I mean, they were way more edgy. They were more like an AC/DC
he
kind
came
of
from
band.
that, like, I smoke too much, or
I
played too many smoky bars. His voice was so opposite of what the hair metal thing was doing.
Michael Stover, Vanity, Barnett, TJ Doyle, you guys. So I really appreciate everybody chiming in with their
thank you
thoughts.
so much. Hair Metal Hank says.
And here's the question. Let me ask you a question. Okay, I'm going to bring up a couple of bands that broke during that time and were big during that time and played that kind of music, pretty much. But a lot of people don't categorize them as hair metal. Let me give you some examples. What about Queensryche? Is Queensryche a hair metal band?
I think they started out actually as that vibe. I think they were swayed though by record companies to be something else, because if you go back to the Queen of the Reich and like the really early stuff,
Yeah.
they were from Seattle too, so they didn't get even like, they were kind of the head of the Seattle curve a little bit. And when they came out, you watch, Take Hold of the Flame, Queen of the Reich. Tate's hair's up to here, man. I don't think he has any hair nowadays, but I mean, it's at the same time,
Yeah.
it's up to here. And those guys were, I sort of think, maybe career confusion at that point, because they didn't sound like your, stereotypical hair metal band, but they kind of looked the part, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they were just trying to cash in on something, and they went on to be a very successful, awesome band doing their own kind of thing. But I think in the beginning they were actually probably kind of being swayed that way, because sometimes you're just a puppet on a string.
Well, the other and another band, another thing I want to bring up is, Come On Feel the Noise, and that video and all that is often credited as being the launching of hair metal. But I want to put to you guys that I think really hair metal, even you could go back to like Van Halen and say hair metal. I mean, even look at the album covers to Women and Children First. I mean, those guys were like pulling off hair metal before hair metal was hair metal. And if you look at the little bit late, going into like Diver Down and all that, you look at the videos and everything. I mean, those guys really had the same kind of look and vibe, even though, again, the music might have been slightly different. I mean, because you got Eddie frickin' Van Halen on guitar, Van Halen on guitar.
Let me tell you about the time I roadied for Van Halen and we had stripper. Never mind, that's a whole other thing.
But I mean, I think that you could definitely make an argument for them as a hair metal band. And again, so I think that we're kind of seeing here that the whole crying and poo-pooing and the making fun out of is really kind of not justified.
I got one that's a little bit of that confuses me.
Okay.
Are they a hair metal band? Tesla. Very good songs.
Yeah.
A different vocal style, very raspy, the Jeff Keith sort of like
more like the Cinderella kind of.
Yeah, and a very acoustic based band at times. I mean, they did a whole acoustic album that was like mixture of covers, and they did signs and things like that. Is Tesla a hair metal band? 'Cause Tesla's could probably still at least today do their thing and maybe be relevant.
What they did, and I had read about them, and they made a conscious effort not to embrace that look. Even though their music, if you were to listen to them, if they were to come on and you heard Motley Crue and you heard Wasp and you heard Crocus and you heard something like Little Susie or something in there,
yeah,
it would
different.
Sound like it would work. It was all those bands had a little different vibe, but it would work sonically. But they did not portray that look. Like in their videos and in their concerts, they were more like a throwback to like the 70s jeans and t-shirt kind
Instead
of.
Their hair going this way, it just went that way.
Yeah,
it's kind of like hair metal Hanks right now, which looks phenomenal.
And absolutely, hair metal Hank, you're styling today.
I
You're
am.
styling.
Let me just get put the glasses back on because you look better with the glasses on.
So you have a hair metal Hank has something he wants to talk about. So go ahead and go ahead and talk about that, because I think that's you're making a good point there.
With the snake?
Yeah, jump in with it.
When it comes to the king of kings of hair metal bands, nobody, I swear on hair metal Hank's life, touches Whitesnake. This freaking band had employed more great players than all of them combined, maybe. I mean, they had Steve Vai playing guitar at one point. Hello. Adrian Vandenberg, Rudy Sarzo, Tommy Aldridge, one of the great influential heavy rock drummers of all time.
Of course.
Back in David Coverdale, what can you say about
great
that?
Singer, yeah.
John Sykes in the early days
Yeah.
too, great blues guitar player, good rock guitar player. But this band is just wow.
Did you mention Viv Campbell? I don't know.
Vivian Campbell, I'm sorry, who played with Def Leppard.
Okay, well here's
he might still be in Def Leppard.
I have another question. I have another question for you guys.
For
Because
me or
this
Hair Metal
music
Hank,
for everybody, because this is another. These artists were really popular at the same time. What about Ozzy and Ronnie James Dio?
Nah,
No, what?
they're not hair metal.
Why not?
That just because it's just there's kind of different stages of metal. That's not hair metal. It was heavier and it had like just more something to say.
Okay.
Ronnie James Dio got deep, bro. Seriously. Don't argue with hair metal Hank, because he knows.
Ronnie James Dio got deep. Roll up your pants, because Ronnie James Dio is about to get deep in here. All right. I mean, I'll let that roll.
That's just my opinion. Chime in, peeps. But I don't think that's not hair metal to me.
And I
even
think
though he had big hair.
the other thing I want to bring up is this movie. And I don't know if you've seen it or how many of you've seen it. Dio's one of my favorites of all time too, Tim. And what does Jim say? I can't.
Could you make an argument that Def Leppard wasn't a hair band in the classic?
I know. See, okay, wait a minute. Just the fact now, Jim, you bring up a good point, and the fact that we're splitting hairs over Dio and Ozzy and people like that. We're splitting hairs over that. Just goes to show you guys that there's way more to that era of music and that music in general.
My general opinion is, like, as hair metal Hank, my alter ego, when it comes to songs, not just players, because all these bands had some really good players. Even White Lion had Vito Bratta in the band, who was an Eddie Van Halen, basically. The freaking guy looked like Eddie Van Halen, but he could play his ass off. Okay, and the singer was really great, but when it comes to songs, pound for pound songs, Def Leppard and GNR just wrote better songs than the rest of those bands.
And GNR came in on the end of it, okay? And they were able to carry their sound, and I think that they had enough of edgier, little bit of. I think that they had sensed that it was changing, and their record label and their PR people knew enough. Knew enough that, like, we got to market these guys a little bit different, because if we try to put them out there like Motley Crue, like, you know, we're gonna come out on a losing end.
That's just petering out at this point.
Yeah.
So because it just got too much. Yeah. It was, like I said, whether you blame MTV or just whatever radio, it just. So many bands started sounding like that. Like I said, after a while, it just got to the point where it was like every band coming out of the freaking woodwork was sounding like that. And
well, look, let me bring something else up, because every band coming out sounds the same. The same thing, guys, and we all have short memories. The same thing happened with grunge. I mean, you know, the first couple of years or so, you know, it was real fresh. And then the same thing started happening. You started having all these bands come out that were sort of like, oh, this band's trying to be Pearl Jam, this band's trying to be Nirvana, this band's trying to be Soundgarden, this band's trying to be Alice in Chains. You had the same kind of thing happening, because once it gets corporatized, then corporations look at, like, well, we just want to do what works. And this works, so let's just keep making this. And it went on longer in the 80s, because we hadn't had the internet yet, which made people's attention spans get, like, a lot shorter. When the internet started happening, attention spans started. So, like, any trend or whatever started to spin around. And so the grunge, post-grunge, new metal, NU metal is what I mean. That whole genre, you know, that kind of came and went, and then hip-hop came, and, you know, and then the music business changed completely, and we have everybody listening to niche stuff on podcasts and stuff now. So it's, like, completely segmented. But the attention spans were changing, and the idea that music can continue forever, the same, who would want that?
No, nobody. Everything comes to it. Everything runs its course, man.
As much as I loved that music when it was out, I enjoyed grunge music, and
awesome.
It's good stuff. I mean, we just did a thing on Chris Cornell, and we were talking about how great Soundgarden was.
When you have a tragedy that happens, like Chris taking his life, you know, it's just about a week ago at this point, if that, and then you tap back into this stuff, and they're great bands. There's great bands from every decade. I mean, it's just there's so many great bands, but music runs its course after a while. You just get tired of the same old. And
it has to change. I mean, you know, do we still want to be listening to stuff that sounds like Elvis? No, we want different stuff. Not that stuff was bad. We want different stuff. And I just want to make one more point before I'm going to play one more band. I just want to make one more point that, you know, the grunge acts really kind of downplayed their success, whereas the 80s acts played up their success in terms of showing all the excess. But I know people in the business, and I specifically know somebody that lived in Seattle, personally knew Soundgarden, personally knew Alice in Chains, personally knew Dave Grohl, and those guys.
They're just guys.
No, those guys got freaking rich. They are worth tens of millions of dollars. So this night, just because they wear a dirty T-shirt and ripped up jeans, does not mean that they rejected success.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, they all talk smack about that.
No.
But then when it comes to it, when there's enough zeros in the band, man, you'll do anything you want. I think that's what happened to the hair bands. Their downfall was these guys seen zeros, they seen dollars, and they said, we'll jack our hair up higher, we'll do this, we'll wear the tightest spandex, and then, maybe it don't work.
And again, it ran its course. Just like the music of the '70s didn't continue into the '80s, the music of the '80s didn't continue the '90s, and then in the 2000s it changed. It changed again, and then eventually, like I said, it became very segmented. So, we don't all want to be listening to the same thing. As much as I love a lot of that music, I mean, I put it on and I enjoy it, immensely. But then I want to put on something else. I'm like, exactly. So I'm gonna play one more artist. And speaking of the '80s, this is a young lady who calls herself Diamante, and she is definitely. I'm gonna play it, Keith. I don't think I've ever played this for you before.
Who?
Diamante.
Yeah, but who are you talking to?
Hair Metal Hank.
Thank you.
And she definitely owes a lot. She's a current artist. This is her latest record, but she owes a lot to '80s rock. In fact, she toured opening for Whitesnake for a long time. So check this out. This is Diamante.
Wait 1 second. Hair Metal Hank wants to throw out a happy birthday to Jen. Happy birthday, Jen. If you're
Happy
watching.
birthday, Jen.
Rock on, girl.
Diamante, Dirty Blonde on the Loudini Hard Rock and Metal Circus. Every one of her songs has explicit. This is the latest one I can say. I'm sure there's one swear word in there too. It's definitely sort of vibe of it. Definitely owes itself to the 80s. Hey, Scott. I think she's very nice. Christian young lady.
About as Christmas as Hair Metal Hank.
You ever seen the movie Rockstar?
Of course.
I love that
That's
movie.
great. You know, Freddie was that? Freddie Qualo, you know him?
No.
He was the bass tech for a while for Black Label. Nick was in the band. I just him with the mousetrap all the time, dude. Wild dude. One day he was talking about the mousetrap.
One day what?
He was talking about the mousetrap in jam night. We found out he was going to tour as a bass tech for RG.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that kicks freaking ass. That is Diamante, and I'm going to give you the website. That's DiamanteOfficialmusic.com. We had Highway 4 in there, Highway 4 Band, and it's 4 with the number 4. We played Mississippi Bones. That is MississippiBones.bandcamp.com. And Gene the Werewolf. That is GeneTheWerewolf.squarespace.com. And I encourage you to patronize all his bands. Something that I meant to mention, and Hair Metal Hank was on a roll, and I didn't get to. I want to say that there's a great film out there called The Decline of Western Civilization 2, The Metal Years.
Got the Penelope Spears. Spears.
Yeah, there's like it's a trilogy. There's 3 movies, and one of the people that she interviews in that movie is Ozzy, and sort of holds him up as an example of that. And when you see him in that light with Gene Simmons and all these other different people in there, there's he did have that an element of that, but he's one of these. Ozzy is so amazing that he was able to like transcend it. Like he did that, but he kind of also went beyond it. He had something else going on that was timeless.
And no diehard metal fan ever would admit Ozzy's got hair metal tendencies.
He's got there you are. I love the way you said it.
He got hair metal tendencies. Just like sometimes you see people that they might be homosexual.
Oh boy,
but they're not.
Oh
really,
boy.
They might have.
I have to edit that part out.
I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding. Hair Metal Hank needs another drink.
Right.
But
we've been on tour 45 years with Crocus. You'll talk a lot of smack too, Lou. But all right, that's a whole other thing. I've seen more one day than all you kids out there have combined.
But so it's just kind of something to think about, It's like, and music is very hard. I think this is really what we need to say at the end here: is that music's kind of hard to pigeonhole. And it's unfortunate that a genre gets named completely identified with its fashion without any real understanding or real nods to the actual musicianship that it actually portrayed. And we talked about, we mentioned guitar a bunch of times in this, and I think that you guys have to understand too. At that time, it was post '70s hard rock, and we were kind of on the cusp. We hadn't had a Jimi Hendrix in a long time. We hadn't had a Jimmy Page in a long time, and so Van Halen comes out, and we got all these children of Van Halen, and people were getting off on guitar. I mean, they were like, that was like a thing, and you kids don't get it. Okay, you guys grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s where guitar is kind of downplayed or just kind of like presented as like a background instrument. But people wanted to hear guys jam on the guitar.
Up with some groin. Some groin. You wouldn't know it today because you don't have groins.
And that was a huge part of it. It doesn't make it better or worse than any other kind of music. That was just what the hook of that music was. And the silly, fun, rebellious, maybe even misogynistic, overly sexual lyrics were
nothing but a good time.
Were part of just part of the good time vibe of the whole thing. So before you want to dismiss that music too quickly, I would encourage you to re-listen to this podcast and take notes.
Some of them can play. Just give it that.
Yeah.
Just give it a chance.
Get into it. So, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today on the Loudini Hard Rock and Metal Circus. Thanks to my special guest host, What's your name again?
Hair Metal Hank.
Hair Metal Hank.
Can I say hello to my fans? Hello, out there. If anybody wants, I'm off tour with Crocus after 45 years. If you want to continue my life, I've saved a little bit of money. But if you can, please send $2 in a self-abuse stomp antelope to this address here, and we'll split it up later. And it'll help us keep this show alive. And Hair Metal Hank will be back when we talk about hair metal again.
P.O. Box 666, Pueblo, Colorado.
Yes.
15702.
That's right.
And you can get our free pamphlet on hair metal and what you need to know about it. But I really think that this genre needs another name, so maybe we can do a contest to rename hair metal.
Some of these guys might not have hair nowadays. Not like the beautiful mane of hair like Hair Metal Hank still has, which is just genetics. I'm just telling you, it's genetics. Don't know what else to explain it.
See this?
No split ends.
Bad genetics.
I have no split ends or nothing. But at the same time, if you want to rename hair metal, go ahead, do your thing.
All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. One more shout out to Positively Pittsburgh Live Magazine. Those guys have been supporting independent music for about 3 years now, and we really could not do all the cool things we're doing without them, and that is pplmag.com. Our website is LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com, and so I encourage you to check that out because there's always a lot of cool stuff happening there as well. And also, I want to throw one more thing out there. I've been getting a lot of people hanging out with me on my private Facebook group, and that is, you can get involved with that by going to LouLombardiMusic.com/inner circle. Okay, that's my inner circle, and we're really having a really good time in there, you know, just rocking out, getting into good tunes. Everybody's chiming in on the new songs that I'm writing and giving me feedback. And you could be a part of it and you get your name on my next record. So,
Lou, not to interrupt, but I just got a text from Keith, your regular co-host, and he said that you don't talk about drums enough on the Inner Circle.
Well, that's why we have you on here.
Well, I'm not Keith today. I'm Hair Metal Hank.
Well, so. I know, but you're standing up for Keith.
I am standing up for Keith.
So make sure that when you...
So when I see Keith again, I'm going to tell him that Lou said he'll think about it, and it'll be, you know, a decision made.
It's all about the drums and guitar, man. That's really what it's all about, you know. Although somebody once said it's all about that bass, but I don't think so.
Not on this show, babe.
Not on this show. All about the drums and the guitar. So, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. That is LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com. Oh, Keith, Hank, do you want to plug anything for Keith since you're
Keith's going to be teaching drums at School Rock in Castle Shannon. Come down. The new season's starting. We're doing all kind of different music this time. So come down if you want drum lessons from Keith, not Hair Metal Hank, because I've been on tour with Crocus for 45 years. If you want to have some drum lessons from a good guy, he's cool. And he's ready to go. Wexford, Castle Shannon, don't matter. School Rock, we're down here.
All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you guys later.